I mean, really, you never know what you're going to get with AEW Dynamite, because if you had stayed off social media this week, you would have switched on and go, there's Fletcher, and for some reason he is with New Japan's Jeff Cobb. Why not? Also, hello, my friends, and welcome once again to Ups and Downs for AEW Dynamite this time. And yes, look, I'm in another hotel room. I have been in so many hotel rooms recently. Sometimes I sit in the corner and pretend I'm like a real wrestler, but I shouldn't tell you that because it makes me a nerd. So we just up those downs. Sounds good. Going back to this match as well, it was even better because as soon as Dynamite did start, Jon Moxley just walked out. But of course, the numbers game wasn't going to be too good. So he did get jumped by this new Don Callis crew when Bryan Danielson came out because he's friends with Jon Moxley. Everybody was then fighting as Bryan Danielson's music continued to play. So usually we have to wait till the chaos, but right here, it was in your face. Bryan and Mox then tried to take out Jeff Cobb's legs for obvious reasons. I don't mean they wanted to take out for dinner. I mean they wanted to chop him down, where Fletcher tagged in, and he pretty much got murked instantly too. It was not going well. It did make me laugh though because Moxley raked his back when Danielson did a dive, and I was like, I've never seen that combo before, and you're definitely not going to see it in Mortal Kombat. As soon as Jeffrey was back in there, he started throwing people around, which I did love, because not only is he so damn strong, but he can just move like a man half his size. Eventually it did backfire, because do you know whose hair was getting really warm? It was Bryan Danielson. Hot tag. He low-bridged Cobb out the ring because he knew he was a monster. And I was like, I just know this is going to go bad for you soon, Bryan. And I was right because he got back in the ring and he jumped at this fall and he just got caught and slammed into the floor. I'm just going to tell you this, I think Jeff Cobb is great. He then tried for a moonsault, and even though he missed, he still wiggled and jiggled and got out of the way of Bryan and hit this massive suplex. When I think Jon Moxley and Fletcher were a bit jealous. They wanted to do the moves, and they both tagged in. Turned out this was across the board too, because we got this crazy lariat, we got a cutter, when Fletcher finished off with a Michinoku driver for a 1-2-ooh. I was like, my gosh, it's just effortless. They then got another 1-2-ooh as they hit Jonathan with the tombstone, but just when they were going to finish him off with the doomsday device, Bryan Danielson was back and he smashed everyone with his Psycho knee. It was enough for Moxley to secretly take a Phoenix down too, as he did hit the Death Rider on Fletcher to get the 1-2-3. This was just such a good match. And as would be the theme on Dynamite, we got something in post. Because just as the Blackpool Combat Club was celebrating, Takeshi just teleported in. He was like, as he stood behind Jon Moxley, and he did attack him when it all went bad, to the point Claudio Castagnoli had to come out, because of course together, they're like the Power Rangers and they can't be touched. Takeshi seemed to want an IWGP match eventually too, so I suppose we will do that, either on Dynamite or maybe we go to Japan, I don't know. And there is just something about Jon Moxley being the New Japan champion, but on AEW TV, which I just find very cool. And again, this was just such a well-worked match. They're all very talented. If I was Tony Khan, I'd sign Jeff Cobb yesterday. If he's free, that is. Maybe he's busy. Give it up. But I got a big reminder about everything that's going on with Swerve Strickland recently, because not only is he your brand new world champion and doing world champion things, but he also got screwed over by the Mogul Embassy recently, which can't be good for him. When out came Adam Copeland. Now, he didn't get to do much of anything, because honestly, within about 32 milliseconds, he got jumped by the House of Black, and they weren't happy. I mean, Buddy Matthews was smashing him with the curb stomp, and Brody King was throwing in chairs, and Malakai Black had bad plans, because not only did he have a microphone, he had the TNT title. What's he gonna do? All of his mates did hold Adam down though, as Malakai started to talk in riddles. He was like, man, you're just a big lie. You're just a big facade. Why can't you admit who you really are? When he took off his wedding ring, and I was like, I don't think that's kosher, man. The whole time Brody was strangling him as well, which was totally crazy. And I think they were going to murder him here when out came Kyle O'Reilly to make the save. And I don't mean to laugh. This was the worst attempt at a save ever. It's like me telling you I have hair right now. I mean, he got a few shots off and then he got murked too. And he just got booted right in the face, so he was down. And of course, we are going to do Malakai Black versus Adam Copeland at the pay-per-view. And Malakai was going to talk to us later, but I tell you, I love it when these three are like this, because they are all spooky wooky, and when you add some aggression to their arsenal, well, I just think they're really, really cool. You just know that Copeland's going to have a crazy match too, and his whole run in AEW so far, I think, has been brilliant. There are some people out there going, oh, I don't think it's very good. You're allowed to have that opinion, but then you start saying disparaging things. I think the former Edge is absolutely your time, and I'm way invested into this. up. All these man angles continued after this as well, because we did get an update on Eddie Kingston, because he had a match in New Japan with Gabe Kidd when his damn leg went straight into Barry Barricade. As it turns out, he is legitimately injured. I hope he gets better soon. He also got whooped by the Elite afterwards, which was part of the story, and that's what tied in here, because the Elite were backstage. They were like, ha ha, poor Eddie Kingston. He now can't be an Anarchy in the Arena. We're really sad. I don't think they meant it. We also saw him get removed from the graphic, and you can't be clearer than that, when Okada called Dax Harwood his bitch, because they are going to fight later, when we got this tremendous advert for the Young Bucks as they advertised their new sneakers. Love the fact they're just taking control of the show while quite obviously promoting things they do have, and I am giving the Elite an up. I enjoy them immensely. They are a bunch of goobers. Thankfully, Renee Paquette then went and found FTR to interview them, which seemed only fair. They were just called bitches. This was a proper tease as well, because they were like, even though we do feel bad for Edward, we've already got a replacement, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. When Dax said, oh yeah, I'm going to talk about bitches too, because you, Okada, are the Elite's bitch. I was like, everyone has to stop talking about bitches. When the Young Bucks defeated Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal. Of course. Now, I don't think this needed to be a title eliminator match, mostly because we did have a narrative here. 1 week ago, Christopher Daniels did tell Matthew and Nicholas what he thought of them, and he pushed them into a great. So having them fight here, especially because they are super duper old friends, I think that would have been enough. They were never going to win here either, so I thought we could have just had a good old-fashioned heated match, but at the end of the day, I don't care, because I thought this was pretty darn good. There were also important elements to this in the sense that Jack Perry was on commentary, so we are not just selling the Elite as if they are the Four Musketeers. It's all for one and one for all. Sydal was then booting Nicholas Jackson right in the leg when Matthew Jackson and Christopher Daniels got in there, but it actually was Daniels and Sydal that got the better of this, and look, they've been buddies for years too, so they had found synergy. Don't know what that means when it comes to wrestling, but I said it and you can't stop me. They were doing a bunch of double teams though when Nick was able to get the sneaky tag when the Young Bucks were now on the offensive. And again, they've been teaming for ages too. And obviously they've had a relationship longer than Matt Sydal and Christopher Daniels because they are brothers, so they came out of the same womb. I don't know what we're talking about. Eventually though, Christopher Daniels also had a hot hand, so he was able to get the big old hot tag where he did hit a DVD, and he was running so fast, the Young Bucks crashed in together when Sydal and Daniels were able to hit the STO DDT combo. And look, they got a 1-2, but again, I never actually thought they were going to win, so I kind of just watched. Of course, eventually Christopher started, I'm going to do a Hurricane Rana, but this is when Matt Jackson held Nicholas Jackson's foot, which meant Chris went crashing to the mat, and instantly they hit the TK driver, 1, 2, 3. He was so pissed at Christopher Daniels and what he had done 7 days ago too, they got on the microphone and said, we know you've given us years of service, Mr. Daniels, but we are firing you, but don't worry, we'll take care of your family with 30 days worth of pay. So you see what they're referencing here. Around this time too, Jack Perry stood up on commentary and started clapping, and given that he was going to make a toast, he then poured the drink on Tony Schiavone's head. So once again, I'm like, man, you're pricks. It is working though, in the sense that Matthew and Nicholas Jackson get worse every week, whereas Jack Perry feels more relevant than ever, and Okada just makes me laugh. And I desperately do want to see what the end game for all of this is, because at the moment I can't figure it out. That's good. That's what such happens sometimes. You should be like, oh my gosh, I have to sit down and see. Give it up. Renee still had a job to do after this though, so she went and found timeless Toni Storm. As Storm is going to be facing Harley Cameron later, it was Renee's job to tell her, I'm really sorry, Mariah May and Luther are actually banned from this match, but I'm pretty sure that Toni said, if anybody wants to hurt Mariah, they will have to answer to the bosom that she clings from. I'm going to be thinking about that for a long time. Storm was so mad about what Serena Deeb had done recently too, she promised to leave her like people in Vegas, in the sense that she will be lying on the floor with some ass in her face. She said it, not me. I really don't think that lines like this are going to make Toni the bad guy, and we are going to have to tread very carefully. Look, we'll get back to this later, but ultimately, she's a babyface, and we got to start dealing with it. This is when we found out what Malakai Black wanted to do with Adam Copeland's wedding ring, because he was stood in the dark room talking. And you know that means answers. At first it looked like he was just going to stare at it when he said this is the problem with Adam Copeland. That is why I'm accepting his barbed wire cage match challenge for the pay-per-view. And I was like, Toto, we ain't in Kansas anymore. After Black wins as well, he told Adam he's going to have to bend the knee to the House of Black, so he's become Zod now. And surely this is some wink, wink, nudge, nudge that maybe Beth Phoenix is coming in, because that is Adam Copeland's wife. And you also have to assume eventually the former Edge does have to go crazy, because that's what these wrestling storylines always do. And I suppose that would happen in the stipulation match. What the flub is going to happen to Malakai Black? Either way, man, this is flubbed up shit, but like I said earlier, I like this feud a lot. I think it's great. When Hook defeated Sebastian Wolf in around about 3 seconds, of course he did, he applied the red rum, tap out victory. Hook was so mad afterwards though, he said, "Chris Jericho, I want to talk to you, so get your ass out here right now." And as per Wrestling Clause 14.8, when you say a wrestler's name, here they come. Jericho did arrive with Big Bill as well, and honestly, he came out doing the wave, the finger guns. He has become like that uncle you have that thinks they're cool, but they're definitely not. But he plays it so well. So I'm sorry I ever doubted this. I think it's awesome. Chris was also so happy that Hook was back. He was like, "Man, I hope you've learned a lesson about hitting yourself in the head with a baseball bat." But that's what we're all about here, teaching everybody. And he had another lesson for him. Because even though Hook was all like, "Man, I'm happy everybody is talking about you, Chris, because I want to shot the FTW title," Jericho was like, "That's not how it works, my little Padawan. Because you did lose the championship, you now have to be put back into another match where you can regain that opportunity and climb your way back up the ladder." All of this just proves how selfish Hook is. And as the crowd started to chant, "Please retire," without missing a beat, Chris went, "Man, won't it be great when I do retire? Because I'll be inducted into every single Hall of Fame there is. No one is better at being ridiculous than Chris Jericho." The whole point is, though, there's going to be a big old match on Collision to decide who shall challenge for this FTW title. Hook was totally fine with this, and he took the microphone and he smacked Chris Jericho right in the head. I tell you, he hit him so hard, I'm pretty sure Jericho was bleeding. How the flub did that happen? Big Bill eventually helped out his tutor when it was Shibata that came down to help Hook as well. And just you wait until who gets involved in this later. I think we're about to do a very unexpected 6-man tag. I did think this was really entertaining though, and because I am a huge Hook fan, I think if you do it right, it will actually benefit him. And yes, Chris Jericho once again has found a way to make a gimmick work. I mean, you got to give the man credit. He's pretty good at this stuff. Give it an up. Swerve Strickland versus Brian Cage was after this. I'm just gonna say hell yeah. But there was so much of this when it came to the post-match, but everything before it was awesome because they kicked the absolute shit out of each other. And Swerve Strickland was like, "Well, I'm gonna break your arm, Brian Cage." So Brian Cage was like, "Well, anything you can do, I can do better." And he tried to break Swerve's arm, so it was like arm breaking tennis. Swerve then decided he was gonna use Rita the ring post, but somehow Brian got out of that and he used Rita instead. But when he was going to do his suplex back into the ring, all of a sudden Swerve was on the offensive again. I was like, man, there's no downtime here. They just keep whacking each other. Cage eventually did press slam him, so he was able to get that big suplex back into the ring. But when he was going to go for a bomb of power, Strickland essentially haluva kicked his bad arm, and that was flashing red. It's a wound. It carried on because Swerve wanted a flatliner, but Bryan just kneed him right in the face. And when he tried to go for the drill claw, once again, Swerve was like, no. And he just kept going after this arm. Don't know why it's funny, you really do need your arm. He stomped him as well when he hit the 450 for a 1-2, but this Brian Cage is like a machine, which is his nickname because he stood up and he just gave him a bomb of power. So it really was like after every time they hit a maneuver, they were taking secret health packs. You should never take a secret health pack. And just when it looked like Brian Cage was about to win, he totally lost. Because instead he got hit with the third stomp when he got his arm snapped back as Swerve hit the house call to get the win. Once again, this was a terrific match and Swerve is something else. And when it comes to Bryan, he is totally underrated. I mean, that man is super duper adaptable. You should watch it. And it got even better because what we did afterwards. Because Strickland was so mad about being betrayed, he was going to finish Brian Cage off with a chair, when out came Christian Cage with Mother Wayne, which turned out to be a distraction, because who teleported in behind the champ? It was Nick Wayne, and he beat up Swerve. And he also whacked him right in the penis as Killswitch was here to attack, when we made it very, very clear this is revenge for what Swerve Strickland did to Nick Wayne last year. And actually, when you remember that, and it was basically Swerve committing a felony, kind of makes sense. I mean, Nick even shows Swerve a picture of his family when he took this frame and smashed it over Strickland's head. And yeah, he was bleeding too. There was a lot of blood on this show. Christian then confirmed all of this and said, "You attacked my boy last year and you embarrassed my patriarchy, so now I have to embarrass you too. And I want to do it in front of your daughter because you're an absentee father and you absolutely suck." This is when he took some of Swerve's blood, he rubbed it on the photo, I suppose where his daughter was, and he hit him again. This was really dark. He also made it clear that while he did take his blood tonight at Double or Nothing, he's taking the championship. And look, we should not take the title off Swerve, because I do have a problem when he said that. I was like, well, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So I really do stand by the fact that I think Christian is the perfect foil to kick off Swerve Strickland's title run. I mean, some people don't like it, but the fact we're also tying it into the past, which rewards long-term fans for actually watching and being nerds, and I am one of those, it just makes you feel warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum, because it keeps in your head, you don't know what you're seeing right now, but it may tie in 6 months down the line. Once again, I think this program rules, and I'm giving it up. Renee, they wanted to know what the deal with Hook and Shibata is, and Hook was like, look, don't worry about any of that. I don't care how many numbers I have to get through. I'm going to get to Chris Jericho. When Shibata was like, well, I want to get to Chris Jericho, and I think they agreed that the better man can go after Chris Jericho, but maybe they're going to fall out too. This is when Samoa Joe walked in, he laughed at Hook going, I thought you had potential, but now Christopher is making you look like a fool. I must have been wrong. As he walked off, Hook shouted, I will fight you, Samoa Joe. As Shibata got his phone and had it say that man is too big to be wearing a floral shirt. Some people don't like funny Shibata. I am not one of those people. Now look, we could go back to Hook versus Samoa Joe, which I'd be totally cool by. That's basically a lose-lose situation, because who's actually going to win here? So I have a feeling Samoa Joe may become the real tutor to Hook. As I said earlier, we do this six-man tag. And search your feelings, you know it to be true, you'd like it. When Toni Storm beat Harley Cameron. Obviously. For the second week in a row though, I thought Harley looked really good, although she did have some help here, because halfway through, Serena Deeb came to the top of the aisleway, and because timeless Toni Storm is a wrestler, she couldn't believe this. She forgot she was in a wrestling match, and Cameron whacked her from behind. As ever though, the fans are so behind Toni, I don't know what we're going to do at the pay-per-view. It's going to be an absolute roller coaster. Although after this, Harley Cameron hit a shining wizard. I think she's actually pretty good. It didn't really help though, because then she ran into Storm and got choke bombed when Toni pulled out the oldest trick in the book, because they were throwing punches at each other, and at one point Toni feigned her strike, which meant Harley Cameron went down. She was in the perfect position for Storm Zero, uno, dos, tres. So I thought that was quite the creative finish, and obviously afterwards Deeb looked at Toni and Toni looked at Deeb, because if you stare at someone it means your food is super duper serious. And here's the deal. I like this, especially because I am impressed with Harley, so I am going to give it an up. But the heel-face dynamic is crazy here, because while I'm sure we've changed it, Serena Deeb was definitely meant to be the babyface, but here she came out and she helped the heel with a distraction, and then that distraction stopped the babyface from doing something good, even though the babyface may be a heel. What? And once again, maybe we have switched the roles here, but I think that would be so unfair on Serena Deeb. Do you remember that promo she cut? It was the most honest thing ever. I also thought this match was one step too far when it came to the obvious winners on this week's episode of Dynamite. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, but when every single fight you can go, well, that person's gonna win, and that person's gonna win, and you don't do a surprise, well, I just think you lose a little something. So when you combine that all together, I am gonna give it a down, mostly because I don't want to see Serena Deeb be booed. But when you get to that Las Vegas crowd, I think that she is. I don't think this is a good idea. So from now on, Toni Storm has to be the babyface. The time has come. Will Ospreay and Roderick Strong were then being interviewed because they too were going at the pay-per-view. And given that Shane Taylor had murked Will last week, he was super mad here, and he turned to Roddy and basically said, I don't like you, you've been disrespecting me for years, and I think you suck. He also knows the only reason that Roderick is so confident is because he always has the undisputed kingdom around him. When Roderick was like, no, that's not the case, it's because even though you have a wife and family, you're still a massive child, why don't you grow up? They then talked about their past and how Will finally feels like he is on the same level, which is why at Double or Nothing, he shall prove he is the best in the world. And I actually thought this was a good back and forth to say the least. And once again, do I want to see this match? You bet your ass. I just thought it was really smart though, because sometimes people go, oh man, there's no story here. Well, here we took some history, and we certainly cooked one up. And again, you just know this match is going to be good. I mean, it may steal the show. Well, we got a contract signing. Sports entertainment. But Renee was in the ring and she introduced both Mercedes Moné and Willow Nightingale. And Willow was like, listen, Stokely Hathaway and Chris Statlander, you go to the back because I got this. Which worries me, because I think eventually they're going to betray her because of things like this. Nightingale then made it clear that she does respect Mercedes, but actually what she worries about is this TBS title, because as far as she's concerned, this represents fighting, this represents dedication, and Willow Nightingale's all about that. But she's not sure about this guy. Because Nightingale has been through so much ever since she has won this championship, but despite all the doom and gloom, she smiles through it all, which is why she does care about this championship so much. And I love the fact we've tied this into her character. She's the most positive peak person ever. She also promised that Mercedes is never going to be able to take this title away from her when it was Moné's time to talk, and man, she is starting to get booed, and thank goodness for this, because she is a way better heel. She was like, Willow, you think you've got some kind of a legacy? When you tried training in 2015, I was already changing the wrestling game. Therefore, without Mercedes Moné, there would be no Will in Nightingale, and while she actually does respect her, there's a huge difference between great and greatness. Now, I would have left it there, but we did have to go into all the CEO stuff and about how busy Mercedes is. But eventually she signed the contract too, and she told Willow, do not forget that my legacy is all about winning. Nightingale thought that was really interesting though, because the last time they did fought, she did not win. And also, while Willow walked out as the champ, Mercedes Moné didn't walk out of there at all. I was like, hot damn, that's a brilliant line. Now that led to Mercedes slapping the absolute shit out of her. And even though she was going to hit her with the title, Nightingale was like, no way, man. And she picked her up and hit the powerbomb through the table. Listen, I know that's a stereotype when it comes to contract signings, but you've got to see this. In terms of taking this feud and ramping it up, this totally ruled. The crowd absolutely exploded too, because I don't think they did see this coming, and medics even attended to Mercedes. And what did Willow Nightingale do when she got to the top of the ramp? She raised this championship and she did smile. Once again, no one is better at somehow doing that, even though she did just go crazy. We are onto something. So I thought this was a really good segment and one of the better women's segments in recent memory. And again, it does tie into the pay-per-view, because quite clearly Mercedes is going to win, but we are going out of our way to also raise Willow's profile. So yeah, massive round of applause with this. Give it an up. It was main event time after this too. It was just so good. I also like the fact that as Dax was making his entrance, we had Renee Paquette from ringside talking about all of this. But look, it does once again fall into this category that Dax Harwood was never going to beat Okada. And even though they did do some incredible near falls, which they do deserve credit for, again, yeah, when you're going to do matches like this all of the time, sometimes the surprise person has to win. I've said it twice now, I'm boring myself, but it is going to get it down. You can be too obvious. Dax wanted to sort this early too when he went for the sharpshooter, and eventually they just started chopping each other, which is when Okada used Rita the ring post, so he's kind of cheap. Harwood then returned fire with a spine buster when Okada dropped into the outside of the ring. This is when he went nuts. Not only did he boot him into the LED board, he did him off Barry Barricade. I was like, where did that come from? Okada was then totally happy to get the count out because he is an asshole heel, but of course Dax got in at 9.999, and just as the Rainmaker was going to do his move, Harwood fell to the floor and collapsed. We did the thing. Okada was then like, okay, well, I'll just pick you up and do it again, but he wasn't able to because Dax must have moved to Berlin and he busted out the German suplexes. We then had more back and forth and they worked so well together when Okada hit an air raid crash out of nowhere. I mean, this was a free match on Dynamite. Dax wouldn't die, because why would you want to die? So he went for his slingshot powerbomb, but that actually got turned into a most devastating move in all of sports entertainment surprise roll-up battle. But even though they're both veterans, nobody could do it. Instead, it ended with Harwood reversing Okada's tombstone into one of his own. He got another 1-2 ooh. This is what I'm talking about. I didn't actually believe he was going to do it, but my word, they couldn't have got closer. It was then back into the sharpshooter, but Okada panicked so much here, he did get to the edge of the ring when he picked up his Continental title, and he was going to hit Dax with it. Thankfully, the referee saw this and got it out of the way, but you know that counts as a distraction, so Okada used the ropes. He whammed Dax right in the testicles. The official did not see when he hit the Rainmaker, and he got the 3. The asshole did it again. He's a very funny asshole, so it's fine. The Elite then jumped them instantly, which is when Bryan, Danielson and Cash tried to make the save, because they were even more useless than Kyle O'Reilly. And after the while, the Elite were beating everyone up because, of course, they have the extra man, and that was about to tie it. As it turns out, FTR weren't lying, and somehow the fourth guy, Anarchy in the Arena, and we saw him on a graphic, is going to be Darby Allin. The same Darby Allin that only just broke his foot, and the same Darby Allin that got hit by a bus like last week. Who is this guy? How does he do it? Now, he did indeed whack everybody with a skateboard, and you have to give AEW credit here, as long as he is good to go. This place went crazy for Darby, so if you were going to use a bad situation to turn him into a bigger star, mission success. So as replacements do go, this is pretty good. Darby, in that stipulation, scares the absolute hell out of me, because what is he going to do? Hopefully there's a way to calm him down. I am going to give it an up. Nope, that doesn't make more sense. It's probably going to encourage him more. It's still a good angle. It also brought us to the end of a very good AEW, and they are on fire when it comes to this pay-per-view now, because it is going down in a couple of weeks, and I pretty much want to see every single match, especially that Mercedes versus Willow one, and maybe at one point that wasn't the heights that we expected it to. So it's a massive round of applause, and it's an up. Now, of course, please do leave me a comment below and let me know what you thought about last night's AEW Dynamite. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which is me watching Monday Night Raw and upping those down so you can get mad at me there too. It's just one big mad fest, which is not a word. I gotta go. I'm up too late. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Why aren't I asleep? I'll go now. Goodbye.